Hello everybody, this is Gummy Gamer, here to bring you a video of my predictions for the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Mainly predictions for the Teal Mask. Before the Indigo Disc DLC, I'm going to be making another one of these videos. Without further ado, let's jump into this, and you're going to see my face be gone because I'm going to put overlays over this to where you can see not this ugly face. And see what I'm talking about with all of these. Let's get into it. Okie dokie, Monkey Doy, and Pheasantipity, however you want to pronounce their names. My prediction is that there was going to be a fourth member of them who is considered evil. So something we already know about them is they are called the Loyal Three, and that they are famous for protecting Kitakami, etc., etc. I think we're going to see a dark evil that they were protecting against. So it's going to be not necessarily a fourth member that is literally in line with them, but essentially opposing them. A lot of people's prediction is that Pokemon is Ogerpon. My prediction is that's not the case. Could be totally wrong, but yeah. Speaking of Ogerpon, masks. As we already saw in a previous showcase that I'm of course going to be having on the screen, there's going to be these special terrestrial masks. I imagine that Ogerpon is not going to be the only Pokemon with this function. I actually expect it to be, obviously, Ogerpon, our starter Pokemon, the Loyal Three, Pikachu, maybe some others. Those are at least. The reason why I'm predicting that is because in some of the earlier trailers, we saw these masks that I'm going to put a screenshot here that show these masks that kids wear, and maybe adults, I don't know, during the festival that they have in Kitakami, and I think there was a reason why they chose those specific masks to show off in this. So moving on, Miss Briar. She's very interesting. She's a teacher at the Blueberry Academy, which is the second DLC, but it's stated that she visits during the first DLC. Her keen interest is on the terrestrial phenomenon. My bet is most of her character aspect and most of her storyline is going to be fleshed out in the second DLC. But my bet is during the first DLC that we're going to get a special way to grind for Terra Shards much easier, and she's going to be your key to unlocking it. That's my whole prediction with that. Honestly, I think that's gotta be in the DLC. Gotta be. But, on the subject of the second DLC, which I'm not going to go too much into this is going to be more for that video way later on, but I just want to go ahead and state it here, just I think this is going to be a thing that's going to happen. Honestly, I thought this was going to be a thing that was going to happen prior, like within the base game, but it didn't happen with the base game, so I think I have a video talking about that, I can't remember, but it's a thing that I totally thought was going to be in base game, and it wasn't, so I think it's going to be in the DLC. I think at the second Academy, we will have access to interacting and battling against legacy trainers, like most notably champions of previous regions, like Red, Blue, Lance, Cynthia, Steven, etc., etc., so on and so forth. Honestly, I seriously think every champion is going to be somebody that we can face in battle, and maybe even interact with every single one of them. Honestly, they might also be intertwined in the area that we get access to all of the starters. So, you know, a whole lot of things with that. But I'm not going to I'm not going to jump right into that for all this. I think another interesting character, you know, getting back to the first DLC, is Perrin, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have a speech impediment, so the photographer character that we saw. She's up on screen right now, of course. I think the Pokemon that she's after, that she's trying to photograph, is a Pokemon that we have not seen before. And based off what we've seen on the website and what we've seen footage of, I think with it being based in the woods that she is going, the forest that she's going through, I think it is going to be the Pokemon that the Loyal Three are known for chasing off. I imagine, based off the photo that we see here, and the fact of the matter, again, that it's in the forest and in the woods, that it's going to be a bear-like Pokemon. Like we have Bale's, you know, like Stuffle, Ursaring. Shoot, there's so many more Bale Pokemon than that, right? Obviously Ursaluna, but within all that, you know, I think it's going to be a new Bale Pokemon. I think perhaps it's going to be a legendary Pokemon. Maybe it's going to be the Pokemon that I mentioned earlier that is connected or posed to the Loyal 3. I think that'd be really cool if that's how they did that. Lastly, speaking of all that, Pokemon predictions. I think we're going to get more forms and evolutions than just Dipplin and Alcaladon that we've already seen. I know we're getting Dipplin in the first DLC and Alcaladon in the second DLC from what I've seen. I think we will get at least one new evolution other than those two within each DLC. I think also we're going to get at least one more Convergent species Pokemon. My personal bet on that is Magikarp. We've seen photos like in-game of this weird Superman looking Magikarp thing. That would be like so dope if we got that. That's my prediction, is we're going to actually get that. As far as forms, I think we're going to get some Kitakami form Pokemon. At least one line. I'm going to go out of the line, and I'm going to predict that it's Generation 2. Who knows, maybe Foot? I don't know. And if it is a Pokemon that, you know, is a single stage Pokemon, I'm going to go on a limb and say it's going to get a cross-gen evolution also on top of that. Speaking of which, I seriously think there's going to be at least one more cross-gen Evo, which I kind of already mentioned that. I think it will be from a 3D era Pokemon game, so Gen 6 and after. Paradox Pokemon. I think we will have access to the Paradox Suicune, Raikou, Entei, Virizion, Cobalion, and Terrakion, all within the first DLC. I think also that these will not be the only Paradox Pokemon that we will get. On the subject continuation of Paradox Pokemon, on the website, when it talks about all the different aspects, like it specifically states, this aspect is in Part 1, the Teal Mask. This aspect is in Part 2, the Indigo Disc. When talking about the Paradox Pokemon, it just says during the DLC Treasures of Area Zero, Hidden Treasures of Area Zero. That's all it states, which is like the overarching name of both the DLCs. So within that, I think that across both DLCs, we're gonna get maybe some new Paradox mons that we don't already know of. Lastly, my prediction for the mysterious mythical Pokemon of Generation 9. So normally, literally every generation has at least one mythical Pokemon. There are some generations that have multiple mythical Pokemon, but they always have at least one. And normally, upon the games being launched, it's in the code. So like data miners find out. But like Generation 8, they didn't have it in the code at the beginning, and then when DLC came out, it was in the code, and people found out about it. I personally think Game Freak has learned their lesson. With that, I think they're going to literally keep it out of the code until the last minute possible. So I think it's not going, I think we're not going to know what the mythical Pokemon is until at least the second DLC. Here's the other thing. I think they're going to be super strategic with it. And this also has to do with the Pokemon Company. I think in between us getting the first DLC and getting the second DLC, I think there's going to be a Pokemon movie announced that is surrounded around the Generation 9 mythical Pokemon. And that is where we're going to be introduced to what it is prior to it being just in the code of the game. That will inevitably happen once the second DLC drops. And then we'll obviously be able to learn more about base stat totals, typing, abilities, and all that kind of jazz. Speaking of which, I am going to go on a prediction saying that this is going to be like the first 5 generations of mythical Pokemon with the exception of Arceus. And what I mean by that is the first 5 generations of mythical Pokemon, if you look at them thematically, they all looked like little fairy-like Pokemon that were really small, really cute, and with all mythicals, with the exception of Arceus, they have not only a base stat total of 600, but it's a straight base stat total of 600. meaning it's 100 in every single stat. Post Generation 5, the mythical Pokemon have obviously had still 600 base stat totals. Some maybe even more off the top of my head. I don't know. I should have done more research before recording this, but I didn't. But their stats are varying, but they all add up to 600, but not a straight 600. I think we're gonna get one like that, and heck, and back with that theme, I think it's going to be literally like a fairy-like Pokemon, little cute, teensy little Pokemon. Gonna go on a limb. I know it's crazy. I think it's going to be a fairy dragon type. I think it's going to be a cute little dragon, and honestly, I'd be so excited if that's the case. How this Pokemon will be distributed, obviously movie tickets and a bullcrap email code that you have to get that everybody's going to stress out about, and we're going to have to make 15 more emails and Pokemon Channel Club accounts to be able to get access to it. Yay. What I would really want is if it was just a, like, no code, no nothing, just Wi-Fi event. Gosh, that would be awesome if they did it. Doubly awesome. I'm discounting them so bad, obviously. I would like there to be an in-game event, like not just, hey, look, the Pokemon's in your box. Like, I would love for there to be an in-game event. Please bring us back to the in-game events for mythical Pokemon. Please. So yeah, that's it. That's my prediction video. Yep, not gonna hold you long. We'll do the YouTube nonsense. Like and subscribe if you liked it. If not, I understand. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video as opposed to seeing my ugly face. So deuces. Stay fresh. Gummy Gamer out. Also, by the way, this is totally in post. One more thing that I'm going to point out here that is a prediction. I think Director Clavel knows more about the crazy circumstances around Paradox Pokemon, the quote-unquote controversies, you know, like the AI professor, the original professor supposedly dying, that I don't even know if that's going to be true. I think the original professors are actually still alive, just maybe held in captivity. I think Director Clavel knows more about that than we think at this moment. And initially, my theory going alongside of this is at the beginning of the game, you know, we're in that cave where we are essentially trying to help, you know, Koraidon/Miraidon, and there's a Houndoom that appears in the cave. And normally, you know, you just check this off because in that cave, there's Houndour in that cave. But funny enough, there's not a Houndoom that ever spawns in that cave outside of specifically that moment. And guess which trainer has a Houndoom on their team? That's right, Director Clavel. Unless you happen to choose Meowscarada, then he doesn't, because he uses a Skeletorge, and for whatever reason, obviously they don't want him to double up on type matchups, so they give him essentially, I guess, a Gyarados instead. So yeah, if you look at his team outside of the Startle, across all teams, he has Oranguru, Abomasnow, Poltegeist, Gyarados, Amoonguss, and then your Startle, and then also a Houndoom, depending, so long as you didn't, essentially Gyarados, Amoonguss, or Houndoom, or rotation in and out, depending on which Startle he's using. But if you remove that Startle, his team is Oranguru, Abomasnow, Poltegeist, Gyarados, Amoonguss, and Houndoom. And it's very interesting that the fire type that they specifically chose to go to for him was Houndoom. And at the beginning of the game, a Houndoom appears to cause havoc against the Pokemon that just crashed down pretty close to the Academy, where we know, and not just the Academy, but the house that we know that, very close to Poco Path, that he was just at. So it's all interesting, to say the least, and I think there's more to it than just conjecture, and just me being an idiot who noticed that, and then realized upon checking out his team that he doesn't always have a Houndoom. I want that to be something! I want him to have dirt on his hands! So yeah, that's it. Lastly, in the process of getting footage for this, I completely forgot about this little training room that we get to see that's shown off in the BBL League, which isn't till DLC 2, but something that I noticed interesting in these is this like little treadmill thing that has like a little screen on it that shows like a Tyrogue training on it. I think that's going to be this generation's version of hyper training and super training and all that kind of jazz. And I'm going to have a bold prediction and say that we're going to be able to change every aspect of our Pokemon within that. Talking about EVs, IVs, you name it, lowering and maximizing, etc., etc. That's it for the 50th time. Gummy Gamer out.